Hello, friends. I hope you're out wandering through nature, exploring the natural world around you. Do you enjoy writing about your wanderings? Nature journaling is an awesome, fun way to remember all the adventures you have taken and how you felt during those journeys. If you're looking for some beautiful journals to keep track of all your wanderings, I have several available on Amazon, including some guided journals for children. Start your journey in journaling by clicking on the link in the show notes. Keep exploring the nature around you and keep journaling all your wanderings. Seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, let's see what we got here. Oh, we got some, looks like we got some leaf hoppers. We've got, oh, look at that cool spider. That is a milkweed crab spider. Looks kind of like a crab, long legs, white in color, kind of neat looking. Got some other little bugs here. Got some more, not what I'm looking for though. Okay, one last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Final check. No. I got some more leaf hoppers, frog hoppers. We got some, the daytime fireflies. So got quite a bit on this one, quite a few, but I'm not seeing any ticks, which is what I'm looking for. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Paul, and yes, this is the Nature Wanderer podcast, and you're probably wondering, what on earth is Paul up to today? Well, I'm in the wilds of my backyard. I just finished up another episode of Tick Blitz. Yeah, I am participating in a citizen science program known as Tick Blitz, and it's put out by the New York State DEC as well as the Cornell Cooperative Extension, and we are looking for ticks in our area. It's a New York State citizen science project. They're recruiting volunteers like me. I jumped right on board because I love citizen science, where everyday average citizens like you and I can help scientists because they can't be everywhere all at the same time. I apologize for any wind noise. It was a little bit breezy out here, but there are certain conditions you need to do the Tick Blitz. Why on earth am I out here looking for ticks? Aren't we always trying to avoid ticks? Well, I've got 12 acres here, and most of the acreage, the back section of it, is open field. I leave it unmowed. I don't hay it, and so tall grasses, good habitat for ticks. And fairly recently, some invasive species of ticks made their way into New York State, spreading disease. Ticks do spread disease. And so the New York State DEC, with the help of Cornell Cooperative Extension, are trying to find out how much these invasive species are spreading into the area. So what I was doing, just to explain real quick what the protocol is for Tick Blitz, is they supplied me with a piece of PVC pipe, a rope attached to it, and a piece of material which is about 3 foot by 3 foot square, and I dragged that piece of material with the rope behind me for 300 meters total. 300 meters is approximately 984 feet. Now I'm not doing it all at once. I'm going in 10-meter sections. That's why I was counting off. Before I even started the Tick Blitz, I had a 10-meter rope, which is also supplied by Cornell, and I placed it on the ground, and I did several practice paces back and forth for that 10 meters. And I found that I can do 14 steps is 10 meters for me. So after every 10 meters, I stop and I check my sheet. Okay, my 3 by 3 foot sheet. I stop and I check it to see if I have any ticks on there. If I do, there's two methods of collecting them. I can either pick them off with some tweezers and I put them in a vial, or if they're the nymphs, the really small ticks, those I just take they supply me with one of those lint rollers, and I just take the lint roller and I roll it on that sheet, and that will get any of the small ticks off of the sheet, and they stick to the lint roller. I put that in a plastic bag. And then I take it, when I'm all done for the day, I take any sheets that I had, the plastic bags, and I also take the vials and I put them in the refrigerator until I am all done doing Tick Blitz, which this is my last one. I signed up to do it for 4 times. I could do it more if I have the materials, the supplies, but I only signed up for 4. I figured that's probably what I'm going to have time to do. It takes place over 2 weeks. So this is the protocol. 2 weeks. It is between June 16th and June 29th this year. And you can do it as many times as you want during that time. You do it usually in the late morning after the dew has vanished from the ground, or you can do it in the early evening. I've done it both during my 4 times. So this one I'm actually doing in the morning. The dew has already been off the ground. You don't want to do it midday. Usually the ticks are not as active then. So you want to do it when the ticks are active. You're trying to get ticks. I know it sounds so bizarre. So you go out during those times. Once again, I'm doing it 4 times. Some other people I talk to are doing it less. Some are doing it more. And you just drag the sheet behind for a total. After every 10 meters, you stop and you check. And then you continue on for another 10 meters. You don't do the same area over and over again. You want to have a large area that you're covering. But you're doing it a total of 300 meters, which, as I said, is about 984 feet, for those of us who don't know the metric system very well. Now, there are, like I said, some invasive species. Oh, sorry, I went ahead of myself here. The rest of the protocol, okay, so I've got these, the vials and the baggies with the sheets in and the refrigerator. And tomorrow morning I will take them out. I have a self-addressed envelope. I'll put them in, padded envelope, and I ship them off right away, and they go to the DEC, where they are looking to see what species of ticks we found. That way they can, see how the spread is of the ticks. And I imagine they do other testing on them too. Later in the year, later in the summer, they will have a online conference call to all the participants where we can find out what all the results were, who found what, and all this other information. So it should be pretty interesting to find out. Now, you're probably wondering right now, how many ticks have I found on my property? 12 acres, tall grass. Next to me is another probably 15 acres, 15 acres, but they hay their field. So this is pretty prime tick habitat. I was unsure of what I was going to get. And the reason is because I do hike through my fields a lot, sometimes through the tall grass, especially when I'm doing some other studies like Monarch Watch, and I'm collecting monarchs. But I'm going through the tall grass and I've never found any ticks on me. I've never found ticks on my dogs. So I just was unsure what I would find. So I've done it 4 times now, and I have not found any ticks at all. First time I'm like, maybe I'm doing it the wrong time of day, you know, maybe I'm prime habitat here. But no, I tried different times of day. I've tried different temperatures, weather conditions. The first week we had that heat wave come through last week, and it was pretty hot, so I was trying to do it in the cooler evening or the real cool morning. I had one day where there's still dew on the grass because it was just heating up so quickly. But so I did try it at different times of day, and you know, I did it in different areas of my field, and I still, after 4 times, no ticks whatsoever. Part of me was like, yes, that's great, I don't have ticks in my field. The other part of me was kind of like, well, that's kind of disappointing that I don't have anything to submit to them. They're going to think I wasn't doing it right. But I actually gave blood donation, not to the ticks. This was to the Red Cross. I donate blood all the time, but I was doing a blood donation. The lady who was doing my intake information, she said that she noticed I was on the list for the Tick Blitz, and she was doing it too, so we were talking about it, and she said that she's done it twice now and hasn't found anything either. So it's like, so she was asking me what I found. I said I haven't found anything, and she was like, oh good, I thought I was doing something wrong. I says no, some fields just don't have the ticks on them. So maybe it's not a bad year for it, although I've heard from some people it is. So anyhow, that's why we're doing the Tick Blitz. That's the basic protocol for it. So what type of ticks are they looking for? Well, the ones that are in my area in Western New York. So this all depends on where you live, what you might find. The ones that belong here are what we call the black-legged, or some people call them the deer tick. So the deer tick is the most common around here. They are the ones that spread Lyme disease. So you got to be careful with tick bites. I'll talk about how to protect yourself. I mean, I look kind of like a goon right now with how I'm dressed in the warm weather, but I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But if you get Lyme disease, it's not a good thing. It can affect you the rest of your life. I had a friend who had Lyme disease, and every once in a while he just got really no energy whatsoever. You know, it just stays in your system. So you want to watch out for that. And that's the most common tick that's in my area, the black-legged tick, or also known as the deer tick. The ones that are invasive, the 2 that they're looking for right now are the Asian longhorned tick and the Lone Star tick. Now we also have the American dog tick in our area, which that is common to the area, to Western New York, but the other 2 that I just mentioned, Asian longhorn tick and the Lone Star tick, they are invasive. They don't belong here. Now you're thinking, well, all ticks are not good. And for those of you who are not familiar with what a tick is a tiny little insect. It looks almost like a little spider, and they feed on the blood of other animals. The deer tick is called deer tick because they're usually found on deer. They will sit there kind of dormant in the tall grasses until a deer walks past. As soon as that deer walks past, they jump on that deer and they start sucking on the blood of that deer. And that's what they're living off of. Is that a big deal? This is a tiny little insect? Well, it can be. The reason it can be is because if they're going from one host to another, the deer is what we consider the host. The parasite is the tick. They're the ones who are feeding off of that host. If they're going from one to another, they are possibly spreading a disease that one has into another. So that's why ticks are so bad. And the new ticks that are in the area, these invasive ones, are spreading different diseases than the ticks that we have here. Yes, I just mentioned how you don't want to get the Lyme disease because, that's pretty bad, but you know, these other ticks are spreading other diseases as well. I mean, most diseases are, well, many of the diseases, they include what's called the alpha-gal syndrome. So they can spread this alpha-gal syndrome. And what it does is it can be life-threatening because it creates an allergy in people, an allergy to meat. So if you're a meat eater, I'm not, you know, wouldn't really bother me to have it. Well, I'm sure it would, but someone who gets this alpha-gal syndrome, if they eat red meat, this builds up basically an allergy, an allergic reaction to it, and it can take their life. So just eating a hamburger, it could kill you. Eating I was going to say hot dog, but we know there's not really any meat in those. Just kidding. Any type of meat. You want to eat a steak, you want to eat, pork chops, and it could kill you because this alpha-gal syndrome, which was spread by the tick, could actually cause you to get these allergic reactions to the meat. So that's one thing. That's pretty bad, and that's usually found in the Lone Star tick. So if you find these Lone Star ticks and they bite you, well, that's what you could get. I already mentioned Lyme disease, which is bad enough. There's a babesiosis, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. There's several other diseases that can be spread to people from these ticks. So that's why we should try not to have ticks around, not to have tick bites. Now, if you are in a tall field, tick habitat, I shouldn't say a tall field, but tall grassy field. So if you have a field that you're walking through, let's say you're going on a hike, it goes through a meadow, try to stay in the middle of the mowed path. But that doesn't always help either. But try to stay in the middle. That's one way to avoid these ticks. Another way is if you know you're going into tick habitat, tick area, high tick area. When I was up in Nova Scotia, I remember they had signs out in certain areas that it was a high tick area. And so they warned you, be cautious, check yourself, all this other stuff. But if you know you're going into a highly infested area or good tick habitat like tall grasses, meadow, field, you can get them in the woods, but very unlikely. They like to hang out on grasses. So if you know you're going there, dress appropriately. Right now I've got my long pants on. It's mid-70s today, so it's a little bit warm. But I've got my long pants on. I've got the legs of the pants tucked into some white socks. Everything is light colored so that you can see where the ticks are, and also the darker colors seem to attract the ticks. But it's also harder to find them on you. So light colors. I've got the long pants on. I've got the legs of the pants tucked into my socks. I've got some good sneakers on. I've got a long sleeve shirt, and I also, which I hate doing, I rarely do it, but for this I did, for the Tick Blitz, I sprayed my pant legs and my shoes with bug spray. It's one that's made for ticks. It will repel ticks. So I did that just to be cautious. You can also buy pants that have permethrin in it. I think that's how you pronounce it. Permethrin basically repels ticks, and if they do get onto the pants, it will kill them also. So it's like an insecticide. So you can buy clothing with that kind of built into it. I don't do it, only because I try to keep everything as natural as possible. But just these safety precautions of how you wear your clothing. Don't wear shorts and sandals while you're going through tall grass. after you're hiking through tall grasses or through the mowed field, whatever, you know, you want to take precautions when you're done too. Check yourself. Check your clothing. Make sure there's no ticks on them. When I was up in Nova Scotia, it was the worst experience with ticks that I've ever had. That's why I'm bringing it up. My wife and I were going on a hike. Part of the hike was through this open field, but they had a nice path, wide path, mowed through it. It's probably, I'm going to say, like 4 feet wide. And we made sure we stayed in the middle of the path the whole time. By the time we got back to our car, luckily my wife was wearing a lot of white. I was wearing darker colors, so I had to search a lot better. But my wife was wearing like white pants. She found 3 ticks on her pants. I did find 1 on my pants, but later that evening, and actually it was the next day in the shower, I found a tick on my body. It was actually in my groin area. So you want to check yourself. Check your clothing, take your clothing off, put it in the dryer on high heat for at least 20 minutes. That'll kill the ticks off if they are on your clothing. Sneakers too, you know, so put them in the dryer. That'll kill off any ticks. You should take a shower if you can. Check yourself. I usually, after I'm walking through a field, I will check my legs, check your groin, check your armpits, any place that they can crawl into, because they do like to crawl into these nice warm dark places on your body. Now, if you do find a tick, I'm always asked this, you know, how do you remove it? Oh, and you'll get all sorts of responses. I've heard take nail polish, and you put the nail polish on the tick, and that will kill them. It'll get them to release. I've heard other people say to take a match, light it, and then blow it out and put the hot end of the match onto the tick, and burning yourself usually doing that too. I've heard to put salt on the tick, alcohol on the tick. These are old wives' tales. They are old remedies that do not work. The best thing to do if you do find a tick on yourself is you take a very fine pair of tweezers where the end comes to a point, and you get in there. I usually will wear, you know, some good glasses, magnifying glasses, anything that's going to give you a good vision of the tick. And you take that pair of tweezers, get as close to your skin as possible, pinch it, and pull it. Pull the tick right out. You want to get as much of that tick as you can. Now, it usually takes at least 48 hours before any disease that the tick has gets into your system. So you have a little time. So like I said, I found that tick on me up in Nova Scotia the next morning when I was in the shower, wondering what that lump was, and it's like, it was a tick. Now, I was fine. I didn't worry because I knew I had at least 24 hours, possibly longer, before any disease would have been, you know, spread from the tick to me. So do it as soon as you find it. Take those tweezers, go right up to, right next to your skin, and pull it out that way. There's also, I have something I keep in my hiking pack. It's called a tick key. Look it up online. They're really great. I got mine for free. I went to some program that the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation was having in DEC. It was one of their tablings that they had at some event, and they were giving them away for free. They had a whole stack of these tick keys. So I grabbed one, and it actually has, it's flat, looks kind of like a guitar pick with and I was going to say a hole in the middle, but it's not really, it's a hole in the middle, but it's not a circle. It's actually comes to a very narrow point. You put that over the tick, that narrow point, and you get it right against your skin, and you just pull that key. And as you're pulling, it grabs onto the tick right in that tiny little point section, and it yanks it right out. Things are great. I've never used one. I've seen them used on other people before though, and it does work great. I haven't used mine yet on a tick. The only ticks that I've ever found on myself, I've had tweezers. I didn't have my tick key at that time. Since I've had my tick key, I don't know if it's good luck to have one, but I have not had a tick on me. And I always check whenever I go for a hike, after I'm checking nest boxes, after I'm doing anything in the field, I check myself for ticks. So that's the precautions. Okay, dress appropriately when you're in tick habitat. If you find a tick on you, don't try to burn it off. Don't use alcohol. Use the tweezers or a tick key to pull it out as close to the body as you can get. And afterwards, wash your hands and the tick spot where the tick was biting you. Wash that spot with some rubbing alcohol. Okay? Don't squeeze that tick. I know you want to kill it, but don't squeeze it. The blood that's in it contains disease, could contain disease. You don't want to squeeze that tick to kill it. What you want to do is you want to soak it in alcohol. You can flush it down the toilet. You can put it in a baggie and toss it in the garbage. There's all sorts of ways to dispose of it without actually squeezing it and killing it that way. I usually, when I find a tick, I will put it in I'll take rubbing alcohol and I pour it in the cap of the rubbing alcohol, and then I put the tick in there and let it sit in there a little while, and that will kill it off. So that's how you dispose of the tick. Don't squeeze it. Okay, we're trying to avoid the blood that's in it. Now, so dress appropriately. When you're going out into tick habitat, dress appropriately. Check yourself afterwards. If you do find ticks on you, remove them safely. Destroy the tick. Wash the spot with rubbing alcohol just to kill anything that's on there, any bad stuff. And that's the basics of it. If you have pets, do the same for them. Okay? No, don't put long pants on them. Make sure you have a good tick and flea remedy of some sort. Don't do the natural ones. And I know you're hearing this from me. I'm all about natural stuff, but I've done so much research on this because I don't want to put poisons in or on my pets. But I've done some research on these natural little gummies that you can get online at different sources. I've seen them on all different websites, and they're all natural gummy. Well, they can contain, it's mostly herbs, they can contain some herbs that could make your dog or your cat sick. They could have allergies to that herb or spice or whatever they're using. It could kill your dog, so don't use them. And they're not very effective either. A lot of research shows they're not as effective as some of the, unfortunately, chemical ones. I use a topical chemical on my dogs. I hate doing that. I did a lot of research. I found which one had the best rating for safety, and that's the one that I use on my dogs. I've looked into the pills, and I just don't know about besides being way expensive, the pills, you know, I just don't want that in their bloodstream, in their digestive system. But that's just my opinion. I've heard a lot of good things about the pills, you know, that they have now, and I hear they work really well. I hear from vets that they are very safe for the pets. So, but do your research on that. You know, keep your pet safe. If you find a tick on your pet, remove it the same way that I just told you to remove it from humans. So remove it with a tick key or fine tweezers, and then put rubbing alcohol on the spot on your dog or cat. So protect yourself. I hear it's a bad year. I didn't have any ticks in my field, but I've heard from other people that they have already had ticks on them this year. So make sure you take these cautions. Next year, it's over this year, sorry, but next year, if you live in New York State, join the Tick Blitz. It's citizen science. It's helping out Cornell. It's helping out DEC. It's letting them know what species of ticks are out there, where these invasive species have spread to, where they are found in New York State. They want to know whether they're going to stop in one location or if they're going to go further, if they're going to spread across the entire state. So all of this data, all this information does help the scientists study. So citizen science, you have talked about it before. You know I'm big on it, so make sure that you participate next year. So look up Tick Blitz. Usually it's in June. That's when the ticks start becoming very active. So check out the Cornell Cooperative Extension website or the DEC website. I actually found out about it by an article in our local newspaper, and they were talking about it and, Tick Blitz and how to participate. And so I went to the website, signed up, got my kit. Had to go down to Cornell to Ellicottville to get it, but I got my kit, did my 4 times. I wanted to do it more, but the weather wasn't cooperating with me. I mean, I figured, hey, I didn't use the vial because I didn't find any. I might as well do another time, but weather didn't cooperate with me, and unfortunately today's the last day that I am able to do it. Tomorrow they're calling for rain, and that's the last day of the Tick Blitz. So anyhow, if you want to learn more about Tick Blitz, I'll leave the link to Tick Blitz website in the show notes. If you want to support the podcast or buy merch, Nature Wanderer merchandise, or if you want to get a nature journal, go to the show notes and click on the links. And I hope you enjoyed learning about ticks and learning about nature. Get out there and explore nature every chance you get. Keep exploring the nature around you and have a great day.
Did you know that plastic is made with oil, a fossil fuel that pollutes the environment? And did you know that only about 15% of all plastic is recycled into new products? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could live our lives without plastic so that we could stop harming the planet? Well, there's a company that wants to help you do just that. Life Without Plastic sells products that will reduce or eliminate your dependence on plastic. They have a large selection from toothbrushes to food storage containers to drinking straws, all plastic free. And it's reasonably priced. So what are you waiting for? Check out all these great plastic-free products and help save the planet. Just click on the link in the show notes to find out more and to start your journey to being plastic-free.